Jiraiya as Hokage has been a fun journey so far. We've seen him deal with the Uchiha not once, but twice, and we've seen him deal with the Akatsuki. But as it stands, we still have a story to tell, so I'd be honored if you join me as we attempt to finish up this story tonight. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. We've noticed that almost 80% of our viewers don't actually subscribe to the Amagi. YouTube does do a pretty good job of recommending the right people our videos, but we would absolutely adore it if you did subscribe. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Thanks so much. Naruto stood there with Hinata in his arms. They were standing just outside of the Hyuga compound. They embraced each other lovingly. They didn't speak, they just enjoyed the moment they were sharing. As they hugged, Naruto noted the smell of the shampoo she used. It gave her the scent of strawberries with a hint of cherry. It obviously meant that she didn't expect to be on a mission anytime soon, as scentless and scent-killing shampoo was normally SOP for shinobi like them. But it was obvious why she couldn't be on a mission. "I'm a little scared," she said. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can make a good mother." Naruto pulled back from her. "You'll do fine." She looked up to him as he continued. "I didn't have a mother growing up. I didn't have a father either. So I know that if you love the child truly, there's no way that they can have a worse childhood than me in that regard." She then asked him the obvious question. "Are you scared about failing? That you won't be good enough?" Naruto thought for a moment. "I'm scared that something will happen in the course of my work that'll take me away from you and the child. As I said, so long as I'm there to love the child, I'll consider it a success. I have a very low threshold for success." She laughed a little. She leaned against his chest, resting her head there just to listen to the beat of his heart. It was a scary time, but it was a miracle nonetheless. Perhaps it was the most common miracle in the world, but a miracle was a miracle. She spoke as she leaned against him. "Do you want to stay the night?" She heard Naruto's heart jump with anxiety. "I don't think I can face your father." "He's not mad at you," she said. "He thinks you're a good guy." Naruto shook his head. "No, I mean, it's not your fault that Neji died. He knows that. He's not mad, I promise." Naruto hugged her again. "I'm not afraid of what he or anyone else will think. I still can't get over it. Gramps Toad Sage says I need to forgive myself, and I'm trying, but it's gonna be a process. I can't do it all at once. I need time." Hinata smiled. "Take all the time you need, Naruto. I can wait." Naruto pulled back and offered her a kiss, which she gratefully accepted. After that moment, he pulled away and began to walk off. She watched him go. She turned and walked back into the compound. Naruto happily made his way back. He had yet to tell Jiraiya the good news. He was nervous as to what Jiraiya would say. All things considered, he would probably understand. He entered the Hokage's residence. He saw Jiraiya sitting at the desk, Tsunade hovering nearby. "I'm home, uncle." Jiraiya looked up and smiled. "Welcome back." Tsunade waved while keeping her attention on the papers she was holding. Naruto stood there for a moment, catching Jiraiya's attention. "Is there something else you need to say, Naruto?" He looked around. Yeah, there is, but I'm sorry, Lady Tsunade, can you please give me and Uncle Jiraiya a moment of privacy?" She dropped her papers and walked out. Jiraiya sat back in his chair, tossing his reading glasses to the side. "What's up?" Naruto took a seat. "So, you know how me and Hinata have been a little bit of an item lately?" Jiraiya nodded. "I think it's cute. You two are good together." Naruto nodded and smiled. "Well, we might be better together than it seems." Jiraiya's eyes widen a little as Naruto's grin widens. "She's pregnant." Jiraiya for a second just sat there. He puts his elbows on the table and just started rubbing his face, droning out a disappointed groan. Naruto was slightly surprised by this. "You're not happy?" Jiraiya looked over his hands. "Naruto, you're only 16, that's way too young. You don't know enough about life to take care of a child like that." Naruto was a little startled. "But you write lemon. You were a ladies' man from the day I met you. How is this any different?" "Because I'm in my 50s, you dolt. That and I never got anyone pregnant." Naruto scoffed. "You told me there was a possibility that you had multiple kids that you don't know about." Jiraiya motioned around. "I'm Hokage. If I had any children by any of those women, they would have contacted me a long time ago to get a piece of that pie." Naruto sat back in the seat. "Well, whether you think it was stupid or not, it doesn't change that it happened." Jiraiya replied. "I know, but just to let you know, I'm gonna make you take full responsibility for it. I'm not gonna let you run out." Naruto's brow furrowed. "I was gonna do that anyway. You think I'm that kind of person who would just run out on his own kid?" Jiraiya held up his hand. No, I don't. But on the off chance you were thinking it, I'm letting you know that this is something you're doing no matter what. Naruto rolled his head back. I know this stuff. I'm informing you so you can be happy for us, not just telling me that I'm gonna be a deadbeat. That's offensive as hell. Jiraiya sat back. Fine. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything about it. I just want you to know the gravity of the situation you're in. I never knew my father because he ran out, and my mother worked herself to death to keep me alive, so it's a sensitive subject. Naruto listened. It's okay, uncle. I'm not mad anymore. Just trust me a little. I'm excited for this. Maybe I am too young. Maybe I don't really know how to live in this world myself, but I know that so long as this child has its mother and father, it'll be happy. And that's what matters. Jiraiya nodded. He leaned back on the table again, thinking. Silence passed for a few moments. Congratulations, by the way. Thanks. Some time passes. Jiraiya attempts to call a summit of the 5 Kage, but time restraints hold the meeting back a few months. Eventually, the green light is lit and Jiraiya is able to go to the summit. When he gets there, he's greeted by representatives of the Land of Iron. He's taken to a room where it's revealed that he was the last to arrive. The other Kage seemed disappointed with the fashionably late Sannin, but Gaara seemed pleased to see him. Gaara had truly changed since his younger years, likely as a result of Naruto's involvement with his rescue. Naruto had an uncanny ability to make a friend out of anyone. This was an ability Jiraiya wished he could do as easily. All the while he sat there thinking about it, he couldn't help but recall what Naruto had said about how soon he would be a father. It was possibly because of the fact that Naruto could befriend anyone, specifically his naivete, that gave Jiraiya concern. Naruto was going to have to change quickly. He needed to be ready for his position. For what reason were we called, 4th Hokage? Jiraiya suddenly cleared his head so that he could focus. Just recently, my village was attacked by the Akatsuki, who attempted and failed to take our tailed beast. I know that many of you have already lost your tailed beast to the Akatsuki, which is why I called you here. I believe we should launch a united front to stop the Akatsuki. And what exactly does that entail? Asked the Tsuchikage. It means that we have to coordinate, share information, allow hunter nin from other nations passage through our land without harassment. We need to unite against this threat or we'll never beat them. They're a military power without borders whose true location remains a mystery. Gaara nods. I pledge my cooperation to this endeavor. As a previous victim of the Akatsuki and as a former Jinchuriki, I realize how important it is to protect ourselves and our tailed beasts from imminent attack. I will do everything in my power to cooperate. The other Kage seemed less than pleased with the idea. And how do we know this isn't a ploy, or won't be used by other nations to spy on our capabilities? The Raikage asked. How do we know that this won't eventually lead to war and the annihilation of our village? Jiraiya thought about it. That was a good point. The villages didn't get along, and it would only be so long until another war broke out. So how could they possibly be sure that they wouldn't find themselves the targets of spies? Jiraiya answered it simply. We can't be sure. This endeavor requires trust, and that means opening ourselves up to risk for the greater good. You're free to hide anything not pertaining to the Akatsuki, and other nations and villages would be expected to respect that. The other Kage continued to think. Fine, that sounds like a fair idea. Jiraiya smiled as he clapped his hands and rubbed them together. Great, now let's get to work on exchanging information about the Akatsuki and strategizing. Suddenly, a strange voice chimed in. What's this? Having a party and you didn't invite me? The Kage turned around to see who was speaking. There they saw Tobi. Most of those serving as the guards of the Kage brought their weapons to bear. That included the Anbu agents that Jiraiya had brought with him. Who are you, and what are you doing here? The Raikage demanded. I am currently the leader of the Akatsuki, the group that's been taking all of your tailed beasts without so much as a proper resistance from you. I'm here to ask you to hand over to me your 8 and 9 tails. If you comply, your villages will be spared. And if we refuse? Jiraiya asked. The air around Tobi grew darker and angrier. Then it's war. The Raikage stifled a laugh, and the longer he thought about it, the harder it was to hold in. Eventually, he just let the whole thing out. You want us to give you control of the world with threat of war if we refuse? You're stupider than you look, and with that weird-ass mask, I must say you look pretty stupid. Tobi sat there. Don't underestimate me. You have no clue what we're capable of, what we have on our repertoire. As sad as it was, Jiraiya had some hints at what their capabilities were. First off, they had all of the tailed beasts saved too, which meant that there were 7 titanic monsters, each with the power to eradicate a mountain at will on the enemy's side. While their little group seemed small, just a band of mercenaries, they likely had some plan for an army, and those plans may or may not have something to do with whatever research they requisitioned Kabuto to help them with. After all, Kabuto was still in play. All the same, Jiraiya knew they couldn't just give over their tailed beasts. You know we'll never give our tailed beasts over to you. That leaves only one option, and I think you knew coming into this that it would come to this. So why bother warning us when you could have had first strike? Why do you need to declare a war instead of launching it while we're in disarray? If you declare war on all shinobi nations and begin World War IV, then we'll gather forces and cooperate against you. This is in every way disadvantageous to you, so why do it? Toby sat there for a moment with a hand stroking the chin of his mask. You believe it to be disadvantageous to me. I believe it to be exactly what I need. Elaborate, Gaara said. Toby scoffed. No, I don't think I will. He stood. I'll see you all on the field of battle. And when I do, you'll all die. Toby then disappeared. The Raikage smashed the table in front of him. Fool! He thinks he can stand against us? Jiraiya lowered to his seat. Sit down, A. He can stand against us. Don't be too prideful to see it. The Raikage pointed across the table at Jiraiya. I take no orders from you, Hokage. You're not in the land of fire anymore. Your power means nothing here, especially when your village is in ruins. Jiraiya just sat there and let the Raikage tucker himself out. When the boisterous fellow finally settled down, Jiraiya spoke. It seems unity is all the more what we need right now. If he wishes for war and truly has the means to make this a reality, which he must, then we need to coordinate and ally ourselves properly to deal with this threat. The other Kage nodded in agreement, save the Raikage who was still raw at Jiraiya. Gaara spoke. If we coalesce our forces, then we need to elect a commander-in-chief for the new army. Democracy is wonderful, but during war times there needs to be a single chain of command, else the soldiers will be in disarray. The Tsuchikage nodded. I second that. Shall we hold a vote as to who shall lead the allied shinobi forces? The Mizukage agreed. Yes, we should hold a vote. And so they voted, and without a doubt they all voted for themselves. This led them nowhere, so they began to debate the reasoning why each one should become the leader. In the end, it boiled down to Jiraiya and A. A stood there and explained exactly why he was the only one fit for this. But as his argument came to an end, Jiraiya took his turn. You all know me. I served in both the Second and Third Wars, and I have the most experience out of all of us save for Onoki, the third Tsuchikage. While I won't claim to be the strongest member here, nor the wisest, I'm still both strong and wise, willing to compromise and lead with the advice of my fellow Kage. The fact that we've even gathered here today is due to me calling us here. But last of all the villages have lost their tailed beasts. Even Kumo lost one of their two, with only the 8 tails remaining. Konoha has lost no tailed beast. But your village was decimated in an attack, the Raikage stated. Jiraiya nodded. Yes, indeed. But there was no loss of life. Konoha still possesses the same strength as before, and we're still rebuilding. And it can't be forgotten that it was us who killed Pain, the former leader of the Akatsuki and a bearer of the Rinnegan. But what of the rumors? The Raikage asked. Jiraiya cocked his head. Rumors? A continued. There have been rumors that it was you who personally trained Pain, the leader of Akatsuki. Well, did you or did you not train the leader of the Akatsuki? Jiraiya was silent for a moment. Those rumors are true. Silence fell on the table for a time before A continued. As you see, this man is not fit to lead us when he's the cause of our troubles in the first place. Jiraiya shook his head. It is true that I taught Nagato how to be a shinobi, but I did not control the fate that led to his downfall. And perhaps that is my fault. Perhaps all of this is my fault. But that is exactly why I should lead. Let me fix this mess I've made. Why should we trust you? Meiturumi asked. Jiraiya stood there silently for a second. Because I've been honest with you. And I'll be further honest when I say that if you give me this chance, I'll make up for this failure. Gaara stood. I can vouch for this man. He is a good man and a man of his word. Even though I at the time could have been considered an enemy to him, he still rescued me from the hands of the Akatsuki. I would trust him with my life. Mei raised her hand and waved it downward slightly so as to calm Gaara. Nobody's questioning if Jiraiya here is a good man. We are merely attempting to decide if he's good enough to lead us. Onoki then spoke. The only thing we can do now is hold another vote. All those in favor of A as the commander-in-chief, raise your hand. The votes were cast. And those in favor of Jiraiya, raise your hand. The votes had been cast. The new leader of the allied shinobi forces would be Jiraiya. The Raikage smashed his fist into the table. Jiraiya was shocked that the vote went his way. He quickly smiled and bowed. Thank you for your confidence. I promise I will not betray your trust. And from there they began to discuss the next course of action. The first thing they set out to do was send Naruto and Killer Bee away to some island for what they would say would be training. But truly, it was just to protect them. Naruto considered that this might be the case when he realized that Hinata was coming with him. After all, why would they send a pregnant woman on a training expedition? As the boat drew closer, Hinata's seasickness grew worse and worse. Naruto was there for the entire time though. She was already showing by this time, and it was increasingly obvious that she was growing closer to having a baby. It had already been pegged as a boy. Hinata spoke to Naruto about this as she lay in his arms, and he comforted her from seasickness. "When the baby comes, what should we name him?" Naruto thought for a moment. "I want to name him something special, something fitting." She looked at him. "Do you have anything in mind?" Naruto thought about it. "I had one in mind. I was thinking Boruto." Hinata's brow furrowed. "Boruto? Why that name?" Naruto began to explain. "Boruto because it sounds a little like my name, but also because the root meaning of his name would be bolt, which would be in reference to the root meaning of Neji's name, which means screw." She slowly nodded in understanding. "It's a tribute." Naruto nodded as well. "Yeah, I don't want us to forget Neji, so I want our son's name to be in reference to him." Hinata smiled. "Boruto, I like that." It wasn't much longer until they reached the Turtle Island. Once they docked, Naruto helped Hinata off, and he was eventually introduced to Killer Bee. They had a rocky start, but eventually Bee came to like Naruto quite a bit, and the two began training together, with Bee showing Naruto how to control his tailed beast mode. But that required Naruto to battle the darkness in his own heart, and at this time, Naruto had a lot of darkness in his heart. While he hadn't been hated for what happened like in the original timeline, he did have a lot of guilt, lack of confidence, and fear. His guilt culminated in what he had allowed to happen to Neji, as well as his fear and lack of confidence based in that he had gotten Hinata pregnant before either of them are really ready, afraid that she might lose her life in childbirth, and fear that he would not be a good enough father to his son. While he did say he set the standards low, it didn't mean that he didn't want what was best for his son, and deep down he was worried he'd be unable to provide. It was only through Hinata's help and comfort that Naruto was able to conquer these darknesses he had within his heart. And once he had, he was able to enter the temple and train to gain control of Kurama. But unbeknownst to him, somebody else was on the island. Kisame Hoshigaki, a member of the Akatsuki. With his blade Samehada, he took a fair amount of chakra from both Naruto and Killer Bee. He explained that he didn't need to present the whole beast to make the Ten Tails awaken, merely a small amount was enough to do the job. So Kisame made his escape. Yamato had been in charge of watching over Naruto and Killer Bee, but when Naruto informed him that they had to leave to join the war, Yamato had no choice but to accept. Naruto made a good point that their forces could use the help of their tailed beasts during the war. Besides, what was Yamato going to do to stop them? With that, Naruto and Killer Bee escaped the island and made their way to the war. Sasuke, on the other hand, was already fighting. It had been revealed what Tobi's forces were, an army of shape-shifting plant-like beings known as Zetsu. But above that, the commanders and special forces of these Zetsu were Edo Tensei, the revived souls of those who had previously perished. This resulted in some of the fiercest warriors who ever lived being revived, including Madara Uchiha. The Edo Tensei were functionally immortal and could only be defeated if one helped their soul find peace. And if that was impossible, well, there was a unit there specifically for sealing techniques. While they had encountered many Edo Tensei, Sasuke was not prepared for what he would find next. Two Edo Tensei approached him, Itachi Uchiha and Fugaku Uchiha. Sasuke pulled back. No way. It can't be. Itachi looked to Sasuke. I'm sorry it has to be this way. Know that I love you still, and that any actions I take here against you are not of my own volition. Fugaku stood there. It isn't of my own volition either, but even if I had my will, I would still do it. Blinded by my firstborn, killed by my second. I'm a father of Judases. The two Edo Tensei launched their attacks at Sasuke. Fugaku used his Susanoo, and Itachi utilized his Amaterasu against Sasuke. Sasuke turned, and with his Kagutsuchi managed to negate the flames coming at him. Itachi would then utilize his own Susanoo. Sasuke's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan glowing in his eyes would suddenly awaken his own Susanoo against the two of them. While Sasuke's Susanoo appeared to be stronger than Fugaku's, Itachi's Susanoo was stronger still. Itachi's Susanoo was basically invincible with all the weapons it had. Sasuke had very little chance against him, but nonetheless he fought. Managing to body slam Fugaku's Susanoo, he then clashed with Itachi's. Sasuke waited for a second and charged his Chidori. He would suddenly shoot from his Susanoo like a rocket into the head of Itachi's and would grab his brother. The two would fall out of the Susanoo and hit the ground and roll. It was then that Fugaku's Susanoo stood up. As Sasuke and Itachi rolled, Itachi begged for forgiveness for his actions, for attacking Sasuke and for leaving him alone. Sasuke hugged Itachi. He told him that he was never alone. He possessed the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the gift Itachi had given him. He told him that he's felt Itachi with him since the day he left. Itachi apologized for having not been there to protect Sasuke, but then, as Fugaku attempted to stomp on Sasuke, Sasuke activated his Susanoo to catch the foot of Fugaku's. Sasuke looked to Itachi. This Susanoo I have it because of you. I can use it without drawbacks because of you. You're still protecting me. That will never change." It was then that Itachi's soul began to glow as he began to ascend from the ground. Sasuke looked back at this but couldn't stop to say anything about it. He rose up through the air to Fugaku. "Father, it's time to stop." Fugaku angrily spat at Itachi. Itachi looked at him. "Father, it's time to let go of your anger, your hatred." Fugaku cursed at him. "How could I do that? You blinded me. He killed me. And for what? It didn't stop the 4th Shinobi World War from coming. It just merely led to the eradication of our clan." Itachi shook his head. "No, we're not extinct. Not so long as he exists." Itachi pointed to Sasuke. "And this war, all the nations are fighting on the same side. We're unified. We're strong. This war may be war, but it promises lasting peace. Peace in the arms of brotherhood between all nations. I blinded you so that you would be able to see, but you refused to open your eyes. Father, I love you. I've always loved you. Sasuke loved you." Fugaku grit his teeth. "If he loved me, why did he kill me?" Itachi looked down. "Because you killed me. Did you never love me, father?" Fugaku looked down for a moment. "You were my world." Itachi smiled. Fugaku continued. "Everything I did for my clan. For you. But you blinded me and cast all my efforts aside. Every time I sacrificed for you, all repaid in blood. I made you, and you hurt me so badly." Itachi took his father in his arms and touched their foreheads together. "I know. This is overdue. I'm sorry, father. If I could go back, I can't say I would have changed anything, but I wouldn't have left you blind, even if it meant blinding myself. I love my village, but I also love you too. And despite the fact that your actions led to the hastening of my death, I know that deep down you still love me. I forgive you. I love you." Tears streamed down Fugaku's face. "I was such a bad father." Itachi shook his head. "No, you were a good father and a good leader. Our ideals and our loves, they came between us and forced us to fight. I remember everything you did for me, letting me sleep in your bed when I was scared. How you tended to me all night when I had a fever that wouldn't break. The way you let me ride on your shoulders. I never could forgive myself for hurting you, but right now I'm telling you, I forgive you." Fugaku's Susanoo vanished as he and Itachi came to ground level. Sasuke watched. Fugaku cried in Itachi's arms. "I'm sorry," he cried out. "I'm sorry." Suddenly, a second pair of arms wrapped around Fugaku. "Father, I forgive you," Sasuke said. "I always loved you, and I always will love you." And there, father and son embraced. As Fugaku felt the love of his children and they felt his, the divide that was created between them healed, and Fugaku too began to glow. Itachi looked to him. "It's time for us to return to the afterlife." He offered his hand to his father. "Come, I won't let you go alone. I have so much that I want to show you." Sasuke hugged his father one last time. "I'll always love you, father. Please, go, be happy." Fugaku smiled and then took Itachi's hand. Together, the two of them ascended to heaven in peace, leaving Sasuke with only tears in his eyes. Tears of joy, but he had no time to recover. The war raged on and he had to keep going. And so the allied shinobi forces, now with Naruto and Killer Bee in their ranks, pushed on until they reached the location of the Geto statue. There stood Tobi before the husk of the Ten Tails. Tobi fed it the samples of the 8 and 9 tails, which caused it to begin moving again. Tobi turned around. "Behold, your ultimate defeat." The allied shinobi forces rushed them, but Madara was leading the Zetsu army against them. He was currently the only Edo Tensei yet living, if it could be called that. Nevertheless, his strength surpassed all other Edo Tensei by a great amount, and he alone on the battlefield was enough to turn the tide in the favor of Tobi. Oh, how Madara loathed the hijacking of his plan by his own subordinate. But he supposed that this is what would happen when you trust everything to someone you hardly know. And so, despite breaking himself free of Kabuto's control, he remained in service of Tobi. All that truly changed in this plan was that it would not be him performing it. Instead, it would be Tobi. That is, unless Madara found a way to return to life. Tobi would then absorb the Ten Tails at once and discard his disguise, revealing himself to be none other than Obito Uchiha. Kakashi was in shock and he tried to reason with Obito, but Obito would have none of it. "You don't know what I've seen, Kakashi. I've seen a world of blood. I saw the death of Rin and your failure. I saw the war. I witnessed the way the shinobi world treats others. Countless deaths. People, children, dying in the mud, starving, sick. Nobody helped them. I saw people beg for mercy as they were slaughtered. This isn't how the world should be. I will change that. Remember once what I told you about those who don't follow the rules?" Kakashi said the phrase, "Those who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who would abandon even one of their friends are worse than trash." Obito then continued the phrase, And if that makes me any less of a shinobi, then I'll just destroy all of these so-called shinobi. And with that, Obito launched into battle, intent to destroy the so-called allied shinobi forces. As the battle continued, Naruto and Sasuke would join the battle. By this point, Naruto had mastery over his own tailed beast mode. Upon entering this form, he, along with Sasuke, stacked their powers on top of each other, creating the majestic armor Susanoo. They fought against Obito and managed to wound him and pull the tailed beasts out of him. He then woke up to find Kakashi sitting on top. Obito looked up to Kakashi. "So, this is it? This is the end?" Kakashi looked down, tears falling from his eyes. "Why did you have to do it, Obito? Losing you and Rin wasn't enough? You were my brother. Why did you have to do this?" Obito smiled. "Because I wasn't ready to lose my friends. I wanted to build a world where the bad things that happened to us never did. A world without pain and suffering." "So you caused pain and suffering to make it happen?" Obito thought about it for a second. "They say you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I planned to make them happy." "And of the dead?" Kakashi asked. Obito sighed. "They would have already entered a world of bliss. They wouldn't need me. I know what you think. You think I'm evil. Maybe I am, but at the same time, if I could go back now, I wouldn't change a thing." Kakashi nodded. I know. He then plunged the kunai into his chest. Obito smiled. "Now, maybe I can be with Rin." He then perished. Madara squatted by the crater left behind by Obito's fall and sighed. "Real darn shame. But my dream isn't over yet. All I need is to find a way to resurrect, and I'll be able to complete my dream. For that to happen though, you have to die." He rushed into battle against them and slowly began to decimate their forces single-handedly. They tried to seal him, but nothing worked. He was just too strong. They also couldn't soothe his soul because he had no guilt, only goals. So this became a losing battle. Sasuke and Naruto fought against him, but as he was forced back, he began to get serious. He pressed against Sasuke's blade. "Ah, so you also possess the Choku Tomoe Sharingan, just like me. But I sense that there's more than that connecting us. I wonder what it is." Suddenly, Madara got the better of him and stabbed him. "I suppose I'll always wonder too." He pulled the blade free and let Sasuke fall to his knees. He then faced Naruto, who in a rage attempted to attack him. Instead, Madara held out his hand and used the Predapath. He gripped the circle on Naruto's chakra cloak that signified where his seal was and began to pull the Nine Tails from within. Naruto hit the ground, face going pale. He looked up at Madara, who proceeded to feed the Nine Tails to the 10 Tails, bolstering its strength. Madara looked down at him. "Thank you for doing your job as a vessel. But as with all cracked pots, it's time for you to return to the earth from which you came." Naruto felt himself slipping. He began to have a panic attack. His fear was coming true. He wouldn't be there to raise his child. He was going to die. Please, no. I want to... Boruto. Hinata. Forgive me." Everything faded to darkness. Naruto's eyes opened. "Where am I? Am I dead?" "No, not yet," a voice said. "But you soon will be if something does not change." Naruto stepped forward. "Who are you?" An old man hovering just above the surface of the water looked to him and smiled. "I am the Sage of Six Paths, Hagoromo Otsutsuki." Elsewhere, Hinata was still on the Turtle Island. She didn't know how or why, but she knew that Naruto was hurt and in trouble. Tears came to her eyes. "Naruto." She then grabbed the wall as she felt acute pain in her stomach. She was going into labor. She cried out. Yamato came to her aid. "What's wrong, Hinata?" She looked at Yamato. "I think the baby's coming." Yamato grew pale. "What am I supposed to do? I've never delivered a baby before." He helped her onto his shoulders. "We gotta look for a doctor or something." Back on the battlefield, Madara was walking. Each step he took, the army of shinobi before him took one step back. He felt that if he kept walking at this pace, he could walk them all the way back to Konoha. But he didn't care to do that. What he truly wanted to do was obliterate them, and find the one who possessed the 8 Tails and take the entirety of that from him. But where did he get off to? Madara suddenly came at them, his body flickering with speed as he crashed into the allied shinobi forces. All the while, Killer Bee had snuck off to where Naruto was laying. "Naruto, you can't go yet," he said as he came down to his knees. "Octobro, you just gotta give Naruto some of the sauce, you dig?" "Don't call me Octobro, Bee. Just give him some of your chakra, fool, you fool." A tentacle came from Killer Bee's hand and forced its way down Naruto's throat. Bee cut the tentacle free. Naruto suddenly revived with a gasp. He gagged and coughed. "What was that?" Killer Bee smiled. "Some life-saving sushi, fool. Listen, Naruto. Madara's about to drop some real mad bars on the allied shinobi forces. You gotta get out there and deal that hoe some fire." Naruto stood. "Not yet. I gotta go help Sasuke real quick." He stood and ran. Bee called out, "Hey, hey, hey! Hurry your ass up, cause time is ticking away!" Naruto ran to Sasuke and saw that he was bleeding. He turned Sasuke over and looked down. Naruto saw the sun mark on his hand. He pressed it against Sasuke's wound and suddenly it healed. Sasuke opened his eyes, one of them a Rinnegan now. "Come on, Sasuke. I know you're tired, but we've got to stop Madara." Sasuke nodded and stood. Together they attacked Madara. Naruto assumed his 6-path Sage mode and Sasuke's Rinnegan awakened into its 6th Tomoe state. They attacked Madara. Madara turned and was surprised at the speed and power they now possessed. They struck him and sent him flying 100 feet. He skid to a stop. Impressive power-up. But alas, you forget that you're fighting an immortal being. You'll run out of chakra eventually. I never will. Madara ran at them. Naruto nodded to Sasuke. They ran forward and reached out with their hands. They touched Madara with the sun and moon mark, which Madara at first didn't notice. Suddenly though, he felt a powerful pull of gravity pulling any nearby earth to him, forming a celestial body as big as the moon, all of which crushed Madara as it ascended into the sky and deep into space. Thereafter, they would free all the tailed beasts from the 10 tails. Naruto would reabsorb the 9 tails, and the other tailed beasts would be redistributed to their original villages. But before anyone could celebrate, word came in that Hinata was going into labor. Naruto began to panic. Sasuke looked to him. "Don't worry, just tell me where you want to go." Sasuke would open a portal and allow Naruto to go through. Jiraiya sat outside and waited. Naruto had scrubbed up and was now in the room with Hinata. Jiraiya heard the screaming and remembered why he was never interested in having kids. He didn't think he could do that to a girl he loved. But eventually the cries of Hinata were replaced by the cries of a child. Eventually the doctors came out and told Jiraiya that it was okay to enter. Jiraiya would stand and walk in to see Naruto and Hinata cradling their child, a boy named Boruto. Jiraiya couldn't help but smile. He pat Naruto's back. "He's a handsome fella. Musta got it from Hinata's side." Naruto laughed. He then kissed Hinata. "You did so well, Hinata." She smiled. "I can't take all the credit. He's half yours." Naruto smiled. He lovingly stroked the child's pink skin. "I promise I'll do good by you." And from there, Naruto continued to grow stronger as a shinobi as the years passed them by. He and Hinata would eventually marry and have a second child. All the while, Jiraiya continued to grow older. A time finally came where Jiraiya felt that the Leaf was ready for a new leader. He turned to Naruto. "Naruto, I believe it's time for me to finally retire. It's time for a fresh view and new leadership. I believe you're the man for the job. Will you replace me and take your place as 5th Hokage?" Naruto was shocked by this, but he was so happy. It had always been his dream. Naruto nodded. "I will." And so Naruto would be named the 5th Hokage. Jiraiya would eventually move back home with Tsunade, where he would have time to finish his revision of The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. Despite the previous flop, the book became a Konoha Times bestseller and spawned sequels and even spin-offs. It cemented Jiraiya's name as the best author in the history of the village. Jiraiya would spend his days with his wife. As night fell and he kissed her goodnight, he looked back on his time as Hokage and thought about what Tsunade had once told him to say. He smiled and spoke. "I did a good job." And that's the end to our story. Of course, we could, if you want, perhaps drop a side story to this if you're interested, but as it stands, I think this story has come full circle. Jiraiya's entire time as 5th Hokage has been covered, and he most certainly reached a happy ending. But the true question now lies with you. Do you think Jiraiya made a good Hokage, or was he subpar? Anyway, until next time, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi. And make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.